Hey, good bread, salute and welcome to class. Come on in, guys. You're now tuned in to the Mr. Goodbread show, and we're here at the School of Common Sense where we remove the gray area. So, welcome to the Righteous Fair, guys. Also, keep in mind that you want to check out our court, you want to check out our daycare, and those of you that want the real, don't forget to check out our AP classes over at the World Class, guys. All right. Now, guys, those of you, y'all know what time it is. Y'all see the thumbnail. So if you are know-it-all, if you are an educated lane, if you are one of them government Satan Zaddy boys, book boys, simp soup mafia dudes, boule characters, you might want to hit the lockers and wait for your critical thinking friends and your critical thinking classmates to come out of this class right here today. Because you ain't going to like what you hear, but everything that you hear today is all researched and studied. And I also brought the Honorable Mr. Palmer in because we got to go to the court for this one, guys. We definitely got to go to the court.
Yeah, you already know what it is, Chief.
They already know. Now, you inspired this live stream, Mr. Palmer.
Yeah.
You did, man. You had a 3-part series. Those of you, don't forget, go check that out on the genetics. Mr. Palmer, you had a 3-part series. And the things you uncovered in that series, so many things in that can lead down so many different rabbit holes. So you led me down a rabbit hole. It was book two. It was day 2. And you said something about women's rights. It was something in the video that said something about the amendment, the 19th Amendment. And that's what sent me on this twist right here, because I always touch on these topics, but I touch on it from the biblical aspect of things, right? So I'm aware that God created the patriarch. God created the patriarch. The patriarch is the order that's set: God, man, woman, then child. Man submit to God, woman submit to man, and then the children will submit to the mother. All right, that's how I was raised up to believe. Those are my original beliefs. My mom's told me that, and she ain't even listen to the shit.
She told you, but didn't follow it.
she told me the shit. But she ain't show me the shit. She told me, and like our parents, they tell us a lot of things, but what they show us is what we take and gravitate to. You know what I mean? So I had to go find out who was it that told the women that they ain't have to listen to what God told them. Because honestly, Mr. Palmer, the last time the woman species was free was before she ate that apple or that fruit or that fig or that pomegranate, whatever it is. But we know it's a forbidden fruit. She wasn't supposed to eat it.
Right.
That was the last time a female was going to be free. And now we have the women in our environment, in our society, that are doing everything under the sun, everything in their absolute God-given power and God-given strength to defy the man. The man asked us, because we simp and did not lead this woman and did not correct this woman, and we partake in eating this apple. He sent us down here to work, to work. That equates to being on your purpose. You hear a lot of the dating coaches and the relationship guys, the red pill men say, be on your purpose, be on your purpose. It's a reason why they tell you that, because there is really a blessing in that, because that's a God-given order to be working, to be down here working. So salute to the guys that promote being on your purpose, because that is definitely God work. You know what I mean? But for our women, he told our women they were going to be ruled by us. That's not an option. That's not that's not up for debate. That's not up for debate. That comes from all of our Father, from God. He told them to be ruled by the man. So now we have the feminism get ushered in. We know feminism is a direct slap in God's face, and it goes against God's order, because feminism is very, very related to the Lilith spirit, and he wrote Lilith out of the Bible. He wrote her out. So that lets you know my matriarch and this democracy is not an option in the eyes of The God.
You would have had Lilith starve. She has a right to eat, you know? Snakes are friends to women. Since all the way back in the garden.
Who's going to say the woman?
Barefoot and pregnant, too ignorant to complain. It was the kindly old serpent who saved us from that fate.
The God. Now, I don't know what Sky Zaddy say, because Sky Zaddy give them all types of options if they give them some money. You know what I mean? If you pay like you weigh, then you could pray, baby.
God daddy, man. Hey, man, I'm glad you watched the 3-part series. A lot of people were shocked. A lot of people couldn't believe it. A lot of people saw reality. And like you say, we as individuals have to live our purpose. And I believe what you're doing, what I'm doing, you know what I'm saying, we live in our purpose. Unfortunately, you know, the majority don't like it. They're going to try to use the shame, blame, and explain. They would try to come out with false narratives and everything else. But hey, it's part of the job. You know how I feel about that. Revving X real quick. So it is what it is, man. What you got for the class today?
We're going to start it off. We're going to get it popping right now. We're going to start off with women's rights. We're gonna go back, guys, because in order to get the concept of today, we got to go back to the women rights, and we're talking about Black women rights. So let's get it on started. Let's get started without any further ado. Let's throw the first video on, and we're gonna walk this joint. We're gonna cook this joint through. We ain't got to do much breakdown, guys. I want you guys to get everything. I want you guys to internalize it for yourself. I tell you, start believing in yourself more. Don't be believing in what these people want you to believe in.
Facts. Don't believe the hype.
Don't believe the hype. This is when women's rights did not protect all women, guys. All right?
For Black women, the story of voting rights is a long one. Very early on, at the dawn of the 19th century, they are already at work on a political philosophy that decries racism and sexism in American politics. But constitutionally speaking, it begins with the 15th Amendment, because Black women also need race to be an impermissible criteria if they're to get to the polls. Sojourner Truth is a name people might know, the former slave, anti-slavery activist, and women's rights activist. Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, poet, anti-slavery lecturer.
We also have figures like Nannie Helen Burroughs. Ida B. Wells was another major activist that people don't necessarily associate with the suffrage movement, but she absolutely was.
Black women never find a very comfortable home in women's suffrage associations. Racism is always present, sometimes in very pronounced ways.
We have
Yeah, now Black sisters ain't find a comfortable home because the movement wasn't for them. But we got so many of our sisters that want to be a part of something because they think like they missing out of something. And that's what that is. That's what that is. A lot of sisters wasn't a part of this because a lot of sisters was, at this time, guys, keep in mind, our queens, our sisters was in the house with us, listening. They was following the God's order.
Facts.
You know what I mean? This is why I tell you guys, and this is why I tell you guys again, when you say white men had it harder than us, they damn sure did, bro. They damn sure did. And we gonna get to that too.
pictures of parades, marches, women dressed up in sort of late 19th, early 20th century Victorian gear, hats, large hats, carrying signs about votes for women. And most of these images are of white women.
The key figures are a remarkable duo of women, Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony, and those two.
Now you're gonna remember those names, guys. We want you to remember those names. Y'all already know. Y'all should thoroughly know who Margaret Sanger is by now.
Two women will take us to the 19th Amendment. In August of 1920, the state of Tennessee will, by a mere one vote, ratify the 19th Amendment, an amendment that prohibits the states from using sex as a criteria for voting, and it will become part of the Constitution, and American women win the right to vote.
So for white women, it was the end of a long fight, but for many black women, it was just the beginning of an uphill battle to exercise those rights.
African American women are aware, but really everyone is aware, that nothing in the 19th Amendment is going to prohibit individual states from continuing to disenfranchise Black voters.
And so the first election that they had after the bill passed, the white women were going to vote, and we dressed up and went to vote. And when we got down there, well, we couldn't vote. They gave us all different kind of excuses why. We just stayed. We stayed. We asked. We want to know why we couldn't vote, and the answers to the questions were so invalid. We were not satisfied. So finally, one woman, Mrs. Simmons, said, "Are you saying that we can't vote because we are Negroes?" And he said, "Yes. Negroes don't vote in primary in Texas." So that just hurt our hearts real bad.
And so the 19th Amendment.
And it should hurt your heart real bad, because God order is designed for you to inherit everything from your king. See, his order is designed, and these laws is even written for women to inherit everything from their king, so that you don't need to be so independent, strong and independent. You know what I mean? That's why the laws are designed the way they are designed, because it's a God order. It's following God order. If the man is submitting to God and you submitting to him, what you need a right to vote for if he's making the decisions? If God spin the block and come to him, God came to Adam about that apple. He ain't come to you even though you ate it. He came to Adam about that apple first. You know what I mean? And that's how the God order is written. But we have democracy, which is the author of confusion, Satan work, Lucifer's work, come right in and create the gray area, which confuses the women, and it gives women the options. So when you ask, guys, what gave women the option? The 19th Amendment, guys. Just peep game. Just follow along, guys.
Even as we mark this anniversary, it leaves many, many American women to continue the struggle for political rights, including the vote. And African American women are one chapter or one facet of that story. There's nothing in the 19th Amendment that guarantees Chinese immigrant women the vote. There's nothing in the 19th Amendment that guarantees to Native American women the vote. Latinx women, particularly Mexican American women, also occupy an ambiguous place in the story of voting rights. For Black women, the right to vote is symbolic, and that's not to diminish symbolism. It's to say that the right to vote is a sign that they are full and equal citizens of the United States.
The right to vote is a participation award. Just go on and say it. You can bluff, you can sugarcoat it, you can charm it all up. But that right to vote is a participation award. So you shut the fuck up and don't feel bad. Like all your rights, Black women, like all the rights you have in America, it's a participation award for you to shut the fuck up and go follow your king. And I'm just being real with you.
African American women are facing the challenges of racial violence, lynching, and access to the polls. African American women are looking at a range of inequalities, economic inequalities, housing inequalities, health inequalities, educational inequalities, and access to the ballot is a lever in those struggles. It is the gateway to sitting on juries. It is the gateway to office holding. Black women have an agenda, and it is an ambitious one, and one that they hope the vote will help them further.
It wasn't easy to try to get people to come out to go and try to register to vote, because the first time that we went, we had a circle around the courthouse of pickup trucks and rifles and white people.
All right. Now again, they're gonna say us black folks are gonna say it like this. We're gonna kick this story like the white people and the pickup trucks was just there for black colored women. No. The part of the story that they not telling you is the white boys was out there fucking them white women up. Like, shut the fuck up. Y'all ain't voting. That's what it was. And then your black women took they stupid ass down there and was fair game. But it was already a war in the streets because the white men knew what allowing women right to vote would do to the family. It allowed a woman to put them on child support. It allowed a woman too much say and not enough no, not enough education to be making these decisions. And our white breads knew that. Our white breads knew that. So when our wheat bread women took their ass down there, what you thought? They were fair game. So don't make it seem like if the white people was down there trying to just dub y'all from voting, they were dubbing all women from trying to vote. All women, black, white, yellow, green, blue.
I'm glad you.
getting ready to stop us. Only 4
What you
people
said,
got in.
Mr. P?
No, I was saying I'm glad you told me that because I didn't know that.
Yes, sir. I told you, man, we inspire each other because that shit that you did, I ain't know none of that shit. I had to go look that back up. And it's crazy because Kansas mentioned it like 2 weeks prior to your series, but she didn't never go in depth like how you went in depth. I mean, you can't complicate common sense the way you went in depth with that. And that's all I did with this. But yup, this is what's going on. We got more.
In that whole day.
What did the white people have to fear from so many blacks registering?
If they became a registered voter, many of the blacks would seek positions in the political field. They would be out. They would fight for justice if they were.
Keep in mind, guys, keep in mind, black men, we already won our right to vote. We already rocking. We got a right to vote. Black men. So why do our black women who's supposed to be ruled under us need the right to vote? If it's all about teamwork, you see, they've been wanting to be independent, strong and independent. It's the Lilith spirit. From jump, this woman ain't want to be submissive to no man. And that's like the majority of our queens in our community. And they followed the white woman. You see what I mean? And I owe hold on, let me give my queens an apology because I'm wrong. My queens can't be Lilith. Lilith is clearly one of these Angela Staten chicks, one of these motherfucking Margaret Singers. Lilith is the one. Know what I mean? Now, that's a white woman. So our sisters could be Jezebel. Yeah, they could be Jezebel. They got the Jezebel spirit, but they can't be Lilith because Lilith is smart enough to gas a fool. And our black sisters are fools. They let Lilith bring her ass into the garden and sell them on eating that dumbass apple. And that's what they get. So they just suffering the benefits of teaming up with their sisterhood, with their fellow sisterhood. You know what I mean? And that's what it is.
Were registered voters, they would turn the city completely around. And that is the reason why they did not want to see black people become registered voters.
What black women want in the wake of the 19th Amendment is federal legislation that will now protect their voting rights, to impose on those states with a history of disenfranchising black voters an extra requirement. And black women will wage a campaign that will take them all the way to 1965 and passage of the Voting Rights Act in that year.
Now look how long it's been since the white women, since us black dudes, because some of us black dudes is the reason, a lot of us black dudes is the reason why the white women got their rights passed, their right to vote in 1920. Now why it took 45 years later for them to give the women the participation, the black women, the participation vote award of the right of voting rights.
That's because it ain't about them.
Exactly.
Same thing with this Roe versus Wade. It ain't about you.
Exactly.
The only thing that's about you was the eugenics, aka Planned Parenthood. That was all about you.
About you. And y'all fumbled the bag. They fumble that. When it's about them, they can't handle it. But when it's not about them, they get engaged. They engage themselves in shit that's not about them. Think about it, guys. We was a family. We was in the church. Our communities was lit in the black community. We had a black Wall Street. We was on our way until Lilith come in the garden and pitch that apple, and then the black women bite on it. That's what happened.
It's important to say that winning the Voting Rights Act is a brutal, brutal campaign. Black Americans, women and men, put their lives on the line in too many Southern jurisdictions in order to force the hand.
You heard what she said? Men and women. So they really, really cap. They love to cap about the women and how men ain't help. Men always been simping, forcing for these women, helping these women shit on us. We always put these women in a position to do us wrong because as a man, we not designed. Male nature and female nature is two different natures. You know what I mean? And it's sad, Mr. P. It's sad. This is disturbing.
Of Congress to force the hand of Lyndon Johnson to win voting rights legislation. This is not an easy road for African American women. It is a harrowing road, but it is indeed a victory.
And it's safe for me to say that there you go. So you see, now when you ask, so why did they give us the right to vote? It was a participation award because it was another. It was probably due from a deal that Lyndon, this guy, he had with Martin Luther King. Y'all already know civil rights is that movement that kept us silent. That taught us how to get slapped the fuck out and not do nothing. So you know what I mean? Martin Luther King, he needs something. Y'all got to give me something. Give my black women the right to vote. Then maybe they'll calm down and they won't be bringing this shit through y'all. So everything when you go back in our history, everything that is given to us is so that we shut our mouths and go the fuck back in the house. Down to Black Lives Matter. Participations award galore. And that's the system. They use us to do us. They use us to ruin us.
One that Black women had been looking for nearly half a century.
I know that my grandmother raised my mother that they always had to vote. Like it was something that she was born in.
My grandmother, Susie Jones, her portrait hangs on the wall, and I am very accountable to her, even as she passed many years ago. People ask me, why do we need to know this history? Today, we live in an era of voter suppression, laws that are neutral on their face, voter ID requirements, or the purging of voter rolls, or the shuttering of polling places, none of which announce that they are aimed at keeping voters of color, women of color from the polls. But when we look at those laws in practice, we can recognize that like in 19...
And that's again, because there is nothing in the 19th Amendment that stopped them from just dubbing y'all at any given time. New York could say, even though New York is a simp-ass state, so New York be the last. But any one of them states that are overturn the Roe versus Wade, they'll also overturn this shit. And that's what the women scared of. That's what they scared of. Because ain't nothing in them rights in that 19th Amendment that say women can vote. It's the way they worded it. You know what I mean? They can hit y'all with, oh, because your ancestor was a slave, you can't vote now. Or because they can come up with anything.
Yeah, they could definitely try to bring it back to, because they'll say that's traditional or some shit.
Yep.
So yeah, so that could happen. Like they could say, you know, they trying to overturn this gay marriages and contraceptives. So yeah, they can mess around and try to do that. You know, so I don't know how far it's gonna go, but that could happen.
It could happen. Like I said, all of these things that's happening now is God's order. So that Roe versus Wade being overturned, that's God's way of telling people, all right, let's stop playing with the sexual immorality. You know what I mean? Like, everything happened for a reason. God do not work in no mysterious ways. He work in equal and exact ways, guys. Word. It's a reason. It's a reason.
1920. In 2020, seemingly neutral laws are being used to disproportionately keep people of color away from the polls.
Even to today, even in today's day and age, guys, they already fixing to mess to mess with the women votes. And they could do it. They could do it. Ain't nothing in that amendment say that they can't. Now, I mean, let's get straight on into my guy, Frederick D. Let's go to Frederick Douglass, and let's see what role Frederick Douglass play in helping white women get their rights, because black women don't got no rights.
I want to see this. I want to see, is it really true, simp enforcer? I want to see this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And Mr. Palmer, before we go any further, what is your definition of a simp enforcer?
Harsh. A simp enforcer is the one who assists baby mama terrorists. A simp enforcer is one who rewards bad behavior. A simp enforcer will go at all costs to defend his fake ass queens, his mother nature, his goddess, the one that don't deserve no type of praise. Them the ones that he love, worship, and cape for, and protect and shield. So that is the definition of a simp enforcer.
All right, we got him. I got one for you, Mr. P.
Okay. I've been waiting to see this one. Definitely waiting to see this one.
And it's the role that my guy Frederick Douglass played, God.
Douglass, in addition to his abolition work, I would say the second cause that was most dear to his heart was the cause of.
I want you simp enforcer and you black pros and you baby mama Ted to understand, when they say rights for women, the rights of women means white women. I want you to know this. So don't think because you hear women, you think, oh, he talking about white, black, blue, or green. No. When you hear women, they talking about white women.
Exactly.
So I just want y'all to know this, even though y'all see women, oh, he talking about all women. Nah. When you see women, they talking about white women. Black women are not considered as women. That's why I say I don't see how y'all fight going off about feminism when feminism was never about you.
Exactly. America ain't about you, ladies. Think about it.
Never.
When you see an American flag, that represents white bread man, white bread woman. We don't have a flag as black people. We don't have the Jamaicans have a flag, the Trinidadians have a flag, Puerto Ricans have flags, Dominicans have flags. We the only ones sitting out this motherfucker with nothing. No history, no flag, no heritage, no generational wealth, no nothing. Just Balenciagos and some Louis Vuitton.
Right. And so I just want y'all to understand, when you talk about the rights for women, it ain't for you. They let you assist because more numbers, but they just use you. I'm just letting you know. This Roe versus Wade is not for you. They're not doing this for you and your reproductive rights like you thought. You know what I'm saying? They doing to keep the white women to have more white legacies coming out.
Yep.
Go ahead, brother. I just want to let that be known when they be looking at the time when they say women, it ain't for you.
It ain't for you. Move it on. Move around.
Of women's liberation. And so he was present in 1848, the Seneca Falls Convention, the famous women.
Remember that Seneca Falls joint, guys. Remember that was the joint where the white women had went and got they shit on.
Women's Rights Convention. And the suffrage leader, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, said that she never met a man who understood the degradation of women as well as Douglass did. And Douglass, a lot of the same arguments that he used in critique of slavery, he used in critique of patriarchy, and he defended the idea that women were the owners of themselves and that they could not be virtually represented by their husbands and their fathers in the political sphere, that they needed to be able to represent their own ideas and interests.
I'm going to play that back for the dumb niggas in the back. You know what I mean? For the niggas that like worshiping niggas, I'm going to play that back. You know what I mean? I'm going to play that back.
So white women praise Frederick Douglass because he basically came there to save the day for them.
For them. And he used all the slave talking points that we use being slave, black men slave now. Remember, still, we ain't talking about black women. Black women is, go over there. We talking about, the white women they saw the playbook that the black men used, the black former slaves used to get their rights. Because remember, we black men got our rights before white women got her right to vote.
But that's what that's what everybody. If you notice, even with the alphabet community, they use Black slavery talking points.
Yes. See how it's all tied in. We're
This-
decoding. We're decoding the blueprint,
Right.
Mr. Palmer.
With the Roe versus Wade, it uses no justice, no peace. I'm like, y'all use y'all bullshit from our suffering and our being chained and locked up and all this shit. You can't make this shit up. Go ahead, let's say that again. I want to hear that again.
Yes, sir. You can't make this shit up, bro.
Facts. Ain't that some shit?
He rubbed shoulders with the devil. Now this is where you get the simp angel that God say go get her, and he go making deals with the bitch and bring her and let her into the community. Let her right on into the community. And what our sisters got? Nothing.
Leader Elizabeth Cady Stanton said that she never met a man who understood the degradation of women as well as Douglass did. And Douglass, a lot of the same arguments that he used in critique of slavery, he used in critique of patriarchy, and he defended the idea that women were the owners of themselves and that they could not be virtually represented by their husbands and their fathers in the political sphere, that they needed to be able to represent their own ideas and interests. And he also defended the idea that women could disagree with men and still get along just fine. And so that was another really important aspect of his attitude toward women's rights. He thought that it was okay if women got involved in politics and found themselves in disagreement with their husbands, that this wouldn't bring about the end of marriages. It would actually introduce an element of excitement in marriages, and also sort of promote a more comprehensive discussion of all sorts of political issues that were present at the time.
Look where we at now. Now
You see what I mean?
Put your own child support, keep the father out the picture, keep him out the house for Section 8 and welfare and everything else. So I guess Frederick was wrong with that one.
Absolutely. Just like how we was wrong about fighting for that rap music. Just like we was wrong about Bill O'Reilly. You know what I mean? They all told us, they all warned us, yo, this shit is crap. This shit is gonna destroy you guys. And we said, oh, shut up, y'all hating. Y'all ain't letting us make no money. We can make money. How does it feel to have the money, but generations of curses and generations upon no wealth? You see how we are, guys? We always take their money, and not knowing that on the back end of taking their money, they're gonna destroy 100 of us. So, but we don't care, because the Boule black folks, they selfish. They just care about themselves and positioning themselves. So
Right.
They don't give a fuck about the rest of us.
Right.
They'll sell us out.
We don't want to be equal. We just want to be close to the man, and all the other niggas are beneath us.
Facts. And we'll control them. Yes, sir, boss. They listen to us because we sit right here next to you. So yeah, and we wear the stuff that you wear. So yeah, boss. They listen to us.
So yeah, so he tried to help. Well, he did. He helped the white women, but he didn't help the black women. Why?
At all. And Frederick Douglass ain't even black himself, though, guys.
Yeah, his father was the slave owner, right?
Yeah, yes, a white man.
All right, okay.
Let's go to that. Let's get in that. But actually, we're getting ahead of ourselves. I want to bring up the 6 facts about the 19th Amendment. 6 cold, hard facts about the 19th Amendment for my sisters.
2020 marks 100 years since women were given the right to vote in the United States. On August 18th, 1920, the 19th Amendment to the Constitution was ratified, which says, the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. This was a major milestone for women in the U.S. and one that definitely didn't happen overnight. There were decades of activists.
See, she missed out a key part of that. She said, according to sex. It ain't got a goddamn thing to do with race. You know what I mean? Creed, religion, none of that. It just said sex. You know what I mean? Man, woman. Which man or woman? Not black woman. They talking about white man and white woman. Incredible.
Work and plenty of ups and downs that got us there. So today we're going to learn 6 facts about the 19th Amendment. Starting with fact 1, demanding the right to vote wasn't a popular idea at the Seneca Falls Convention. In 1848, this convention was held at a chapel in Seneca Falls, New York, by a group of women who wanted to discuss their rights. They were surprised by the massive crowd of 300 people, men and women, who joined them. One of the convention's main agenda items was to vote on the resolutions laid out in the Declaration of Sentiments, a document that was mostly written by Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Stanton's husband, an attorney, initially helped her draft the document, but stopped when she wanted to add the right to vote, claiming, "You will turn the proceedings into a farce."
Exactly. Even this woman husband knew what the fuck time it was. This woman husband knew exactly what she was trying to do and exactly what the backlash would be. And keep in mind, this fucking lady right here, looking like George Washington, a female George Washington, her name is in a lot of fuckery, yo. This white woman, she couldn't sit her ass still.
Some sources even say he left town over the disagreement.
Look,
he wasn't the only voice against the addition. Elizabeth's fellow convention organizer, Lucretia Mott, objected, saying, "Why, Lizzie, they will make us ridiculous."
Now, that's a white woman. That's a white conservative woman. She said, "Why, Lizzie? Thee will make us ridiculous. It will take us from our nature. We are not naturally go-getters. We are women. We are females, bro. We aid and assist our men. We make them great. And then as a whole, he follow God. We follow him. And our children will follow us. Guys, that's what this is."
In the end, the 9th resolution read, "Resolve that it is the duty of the women of this country to secure." Stanton's husband, an attorney, initially helped her draft the document, but stopped when she wanted to add the right to vote, claiming, "You will turn the proceedings into a farce." Some sources even say he left town over the disagreement. He wasn't the only voice against the addition. Elizabeth's fellow convention organizer, Lucretia Mott, objected, saying, "Why, Lizzie, they will make us ridiculous." In the end, the 9th resolution read, "Resolve that it is the duty of the women of this country to secure to themselves their sacred right to the elective franchise." And after a rousing speech from none other than Frederick Douglass, the vote for the 9th resolution went through. Although it was not unanimous.
You see how powerful black man is? You see how powerful the black man is? But you see how they can wickedly manipulate the black man to use his power for their gain, and we gets nothing.
Yeah.
We get nothing. Used us.
I see it.
Used us.
That's crazy.
Like the other 10. But I don't want their sacred right to the elective franchise. And after a rousing speech from none other than Frederick Douglass, the vote for the 9th resolution went through. Although it was not unanimous like the other 10. But I don't want to pour unquestioned praise on this convention. It's important to note that there were likely no African American women in the room, and the Declaration of Rights and Sentiments has blatantly racist ideas in it, including
Bingo! Thank you, sister. I appreciate a sister that can tell the truth. You know what I mean? And I'm glad the sister said it, not a man said it. Because, you know what I mean, he wouldn't know what the fuck he talking about. Oh, he being sexist. Sister told you what it was. None of our sisters was in that room because none of our sisters needed to be in that room because our sisters wasn't getting raped. They wasn't getting harassed, assaulted, all of the shit that the movies show man doing to black women. Fuck out of here. Our sisters was good. Good.
The claim that the rights that they were asking for were given to, quote, the most ignorant and degraded men, both natives and foreigners. This is a good time to jump to fact 2. Being pro-suffrage didn't equal being anti-racist. Many well-known suffragists were part of the abolition movement first. Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Susan B. Anthony, Lucretia Mott, and many others fought for the end of slavery alongside abolitionists like Frederick Douglass and Sojourner Truth. They learned a lot from.
And we know what they did. They linked up with Sojourner. They figured, yo, we gonna help y'all. We gonna help the men, y'all men. We gonna help y'all men get y'all rights. Because we're going to need y'all to come spin the block on the back end and help us. You know what I mean? And then black sisters, we're going to show you how to get stupid. That's how that went in that order.
From the movement, particularly from the work of the American Anti-Slavery Society, including how to create persuasive newspapers, organize events, and find compelling speakers. But in the mid-1800s, a serious push towards giving black men the right to vote caused some suffragists to split off from the abolition movement. Stanton and Anthony, for instance, believed that white women deserved the vote either before or at the same time as black men. They actively campaigned against the 15th Amendment because it would only enfranchise black men. And in their
And it's crazy. Black men, yeah, how dumb are we, bro? You ain't see what the bitch trying to do, bro. She's sitting there, she's clearly telling you, no, white women is equal to you. Now, our men got their work. You know what I mean? And that's not true. Like, and so why would you help this bitch? Why would you help this bitch? Why would you need to help this bitch? We don't need to vote, bro. And let's keep it real, guys. Do our vote count? You don't even know if your vote count to this day. How we know these people just don't, how the fuck we know? You count votes, guys. Y'all in the room that count the votes. How you know with who you vote for? How you know your little vote make it to who you vote for? You don't know a goddamn thing. You don't know you only know what they want you to know when it comes to this shit, yo.
I'm kind of surprised about this thing, man. I ain't gonna lie, I'm kind of stunned.
I had to pay you back because that's how you had me feeling, Mr. Palmer. We even now, Mr. Palmer.
Yeah, it's kind of stunned. I'm shocked. I don't believe this.
Request for women's suffrage, they openly teamed up with well-known white supremacists. Stanton gave speeches containing slurs and stereotypes. It's perhaps worth noting.
You hear that, guys? So that mean our boy FD sat in the room with a bunch of white supremacists. Yo, come on, man. Come on. Let me just let it play through now, man. Ain't nothing else for me to say. Let me let the sister tell y'all.
The 15th Amendment because it would only enfranchise black men. And in their quest for women's suffrage, they openly teamed up with well-known white supremacists. Stanton gave speeches containing slurs and stereotypes. It's perhaps worth noting that the 15th Amendment wasn't just passed because it was the right thing to do. It was also a political decision. The Republican Party believed black male suffrage would benefit them by getting them a lot of votes. They didn't feel the same about women's suffrage because, there were Confederate women. Eventually, the fences between certain abolitionists and women's suffragists did mend. For example, Douglass's relationship with Stanton and Anthony was sour for a while, but later in life they began interacting again. He called himself a woman's rights man and gave Stanton credit for that, and Anthony was with Douglass at a suffrage conference on the day he died. That leads us to facts.
You hear that? That's facts, guys. These are the facts. Because I know we're going to have a lot of people that like worshiping stupidity, that like worshiping passionately ignorant shit. You know what I mean? Frederick Douglass, guys, sold us out. And it is what it is, guys. It is what it is. You know what I mean? So when they teaching, this is why, if you notice, those ones that they so quick to teach us in school, they so quick to push that shit that in our history books and teach us about, those be the fuckers that did us in. The Martin Luther Kings, the Malcolm X's, this nigga, you know what I mean? Yeah, we're going to take his ass to the shed before the night is over. Frederick Douglass, the first historian that we whipped his ass behind the shed. Only on the Mr. Goodbread channel. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, y'all. Are you not entertained while being educated, yo?
Act 3. Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton rewrote history. These women come up often when we're talking about women's suffrage in the United States because that's exactly what they wanted. In fact, soon after it happened, the Seneca Falls Convention was on the verge of being forgotten, according to Professor Lisa Tetreault, an expert on the suffrage movement. She's explained, some of the older veterans still remembered the event as the first convention, but they attached no special significance to it. Almost no one considered Seneca Falls the beginning of the movement. So facing the possibility of being forgotten, Anthony and Stanton decided their way forward was to write a 3,000-page book.
See, nobody was caring about the movement before Seneca Falls. Seneca Falls is significant because that is where they had Frederick Douglass. They had the Black Power man. They had the Black Power man speaking for them. You know what I mean? No black sisters, but they had the Black powerful man and a couple simp forces over there. The 3 simp ass angels. They over there sitting there. Yeah. Women deserve the right to be stupid. They deserve the right to defy their God-given tasks. They deserve the right to defy their biology. Come on now, how they set y'all up, women? They set y'all up.
History of women's suffrage. In that history, they played prominent roles, of course, but women's suffrage wasn't started by these 2 women, because think about it. This country is big. Movements don't start with one convention in upstate New York. They build gradually and nationally. And because of that, the suffragists were much more diverse than Anthony and Stanton would have us believe. In its finished form, History of Women's Suffrage was nearly 6,000 pages total, making up 6 volumes. Stanton and Anthony were responsible for the first 3 volumes, which cover the years 1848 through 1885, beginning with the Civil War and ending with women receiving the vote in Wyoming. History of Women's Suffrage describes the movement and contains what the authors viewed as important documents from the time, like speeches and letters. But Stanton and Anthony's history left many of their contemporaries out in the cold. Modern historians are working to shed light on many other activists from around the same time as Anthony and Stanton. There were women like Sojourner Truth, who toured the entire country with her speeches for equality, and Yankton writer Sitkala Shah, who wanted Native Americans to be enfranchised, but first had to advocate for their recognition as citizens. The trajectory of the voting rights journeys of these women ended up quite different from the ones of Stanton and Anthony. Native Americans weren't considered U.S. citizens until the Indian Citizenship Act was passed in 1924, and even after that, Native American women weren't always enfranchised. Hawaiian women went through similar struggles, and until changes to the law in the 1960s, poll taxes and literacy tests prevented many Black Americans from voting, and they continue to face barriers to voting to this day. Organizing was crucial to women's suffrage, and although we mostly talk about how that unfolded on the East Coast, it was happening in the West as well, which leads us to fact 4. Wyoming and Colorado gave women the right to vote almost 30 years before there was national women's suffrage. Women's clubs were a big part of that. There were clubs devoted to women's suffrage all over the Western US starting in the 1870s. They were typically made up of middle-class women because they had the time to be in clubs. Think ladies who lunch and also do politics. They used newspapers to spread the word about their activism and push for suffrage. And they discussed many topics beyond the vote, like education, politics, self-improvement, philanthropy, and art. One early leader who helped enfranchise women was teacher and library founder Elizabeth Ensley. In Colorado, she campaigned for suffrage, which women received with 55% of the vote in November 1893, making Colorado the second state with women's suffrage after Wyoming in the modern era. Ensley was the Denver correspondent for the Women's Era, the first national newspaper to be published exclusively by African American women. And she was one of the founders of the Women's League of Denver, as well as the Colorado Colored Women's Republican Club. These clubs were equally important after women became enfranchised because they discussed information about their rights as voters and how voting worked. This had an effect on election outcomes. Thanks in large part to the votes of Black women, Colorado's first Black state legislator, Joseph H. Stewart, was elected in 1894. That same year, Colorado also got 3 female state legislators. And these women were fighting for more than just voting rights. They were fighting for respect. These clubs, with their focus on self-improvement and education, were a way to try to invalidate some of the unwarranted stereotypes that Black people faced. By 1940, there were over 70 Black Republican women's clubs in the US. Marginalized groups were a big part of the story of women's suffrage in the West. One of the major barriers to that suffrage was racism against Chinese people. A common argument was that women should not get the right to vote because that would include Chinese women. But some suffragists knew that reaching out to communities of color was essential to their cause. For instance, in California, where women's suffrage...
So when you ask why we have this attack and war on Asians, why they every now and then they try to stir us Black folks up to get us to hate Asian people, just take a think. I want you to think. Every time they try to stir up something, I want you to really stop yourself, guys, and think, why are they showing me this? What do I have that they want that they continue to show me this, right? Because when they show you something on the left, don't pay no attention to that. Look on the right. Just keep looking. Just turn to the right and just look, and you're going to see it.
Barely passed in 1911 with 50.7% of the vote, the majority of Chinese voters voted for it. Which leads us to fact 5. The day before Woodrow Wilson's inauguration in 1913, 5,000 suffragists marched on Washington, D.C. 28-year-old Alice Paul came up with the idea for the march. She had spent time in England where she was inspired by the British suffrage movement and their more extreme tactics. So it was important to Paul that the parade be noticed. And what's more noticeable than 5,000 people marching through Washington, D.C. on Inauguration Week? 500,000 spectators watched as floats, bands, and marchers passed. Women wore their work clothes with all types of careers represented, from farmer to librarian to doctor. Actress Margaret Vale...
And y'all, make sure y'all look at the pictures, yo. Make sure y'all look at the pictures. Y'all can see it for yourself. Ain't no Black people in them. Ain't no black people in that.
Not at all.
You know what I mean, guys? Go back. Make sure y'all hit on the playback. Ain't no black women in that.
Was there, who happened to be Woodrow Wilson's niece by marriage, and Helen Keller also made an appearance. But it wasn't a peaceful event. Afterwards, one reporter wrote, women were spit upon, slapped in the face, tripped up, pelted with burning cigar stubs, and insulted by jeers and obscene language too vile to print or repeat.
All right. And who, if I told y'all no black women were down there, who was doing that to who? That was the white man fighting for their life. That was the white men fighting for their masculinity. That was our white brothers, bro. Our white brothers fighting for their masculinity because they knew what was going to go down. You seen that? Staten husband left her when she started talking some dumb shit like that. He sitting there writing up shit for her and shit. She started talking about writing rights to vote. This nigga just put the pen down and left. That's how really real it is. Like, if you know, you know. And the Holy Spirit, and nowhere in the Holy Spirit do it say a woman need a right to vote, because you got your woman. Kings got their woman, bro. And it's up to the woman to find a king and not just settle for something they could control, something that they could just use to play this shit on, to not this, work this out on. Like, this shit's stupid, yo. It's only suffering. It is no way to peace for a black woman without going through God or a black man. Write that down. Get that tatted. Put that, tramp stamp that, bitch. You need to come to God, or you need to submit to a masculine, God-fearing man, or at least an intelligent man, a man on his purpose. Fuck how he look. Y'all running around here worrying about how niggas look, what niggas drive. You know what I mean? That shit ain't important. Your nature, your natural nature, your protection is through God or a black man. Now, you play dumb if you want to. I tell y'all all the time, y'all got to start playing with your simps. Do not play with me. Don't play with us. We ain't here to play with y'all, yo. We not your friends. We your brothers.
200 were injured, over 100 of whom were hospitalized. Sources vary on how the police reacted, but in the end, their lack of protection for the marchers ended up costing the DC superintendent of police his job. The women made an impression as intended, but like Anthony and Stanton, the coordinators elevated only white suffragists. Paul and her organization suggested that—
Y'all heard that? Only white suffragists. I'm going to play that back to the part where they was beating their ass in the street for being dumb. You know what I mean? Because I think y'all need to hear that again.
Spectators watch as floats, bands, and marchers passed. Women wore their work clothes with all types of careers represented, from farmer to librarian to doctor. Actress Margaret Vale was there, who happened to be Woodrow Wilson's niece by marriage, and Helen Keller also made an appearance. But it wasn't a peaceful event. Afterwards, one reporter wrote, women were spit upon, slapped in the face, tripped up, pelted with burning cigar stubs, and insulted by jeers and obscene language too vile to print or repeat. 200 were injured, over 100 of whom were hospitalized. Sources vary on how the police reacted, but in the end, their lack of protection for the marchers ended up costing the DC superintendent of police his job. The women made an impression as intended, but like Anthony and Stanton, the coordinators elevated only white suffragists. Paul and her organization suggested that black women not join in, and if they did, to march at the back. Journalist and abolitionist Ida Bell Wells Barnett, who was also the founder of the pioneering Alpha Suffrage Club of Chicago, fought against this direction. She wanted to march with the other suffragists from Illinois, telling them either I go with you or not at all. I'm not taking this stand because I personally wish for recognition. I am doing it for the future benefit of my whole race. They refused, so
there you go. You know, you always get that one. You always gonna have that one black woman that want to be a part of something. Always want to be a part of something. And they told her, this not for you. Stay away from this. You see, they don't respect you, women. The white women don't respect the sisters, because the sisters was keeping them from getting this vote. The sisters wasn't educated enough. They wasn't valued enough for them to even run with the sisters to where they vote even could count. So this is what I mean, guys, when I tell y'all, ladies, y'all don't have no rights in America. Y'all have no right. Y'all only right is to find a king and swing, bro, and do your thing, yo. Facts. That's a whole fact. Got Mrs. Goodbread laughing out this motherfucker. Yeah.
she watched from the crowd, then jumped into the march alongside them as the club passed her. just one African American women's organization marched, Delta Sigma Theta sorority. That leads us to fact 6. One mom's letter had a huge impact on the passing of the 19th Amendment. So there are a couple of ways to ratify an amendment to the Constitution. One of those ways involves 3/4 of the state legislatures voting for it. And during 1919 and 1920, the 19th Amendment was making its way through state legislatures. The suffragists needed 36 of them to ratify it, and by the end of March 1920, 35 had. Tennessee would become the infamous number 36, but a few things needed to line up perfectly first. The state legislature wasn't even in session during the summer of 1920, but President Woodrow Wilson himself, finally officially in favor of women's suffrage, encouraged the governor to call a special session. So Nashville became the place to be for suffragists and anti-ratificationists. The former wore yellow roses, the latter red. Another group hoping to affect the outcome was the liquor industry. They believed that if women were to achieve suffrage, their votes would go to candidates who would enforce prohibition. So a group of liquor industry professionals set up what was known as the Jack Daniels Suite in the Hermitage Hotel by the State House. They fed legislators a bunch of free booze, trying to...
Now this is why these bitches be running around here drunken. Now I mean, like, look at them. Look, the behavior, the behavior is clear, guys. The behavior, everything they like is government zaddy know. Government zaddy know everything they like and manipulated it to use them, to market their shit. So now you got the liquor company in Canada. Liquor companies in Canada want in on the foolery of black women and women, period. They want in on the foolery. Like, oh, we see what's going on. And that's just like how these fucking logos be marketing the June 19th, and the LBGT, they all want a piece. They turn all they products with the rainbow. See what I mean? Because they know they see a sucker, so they know the suckers is gonna lick it. The beta males and the modern women's, they can't resist the temptation
to persuade them not to ratify. So despite the very appealing name, the Jack Daniels Suite probably contained a bunch of liquored up anti-ratificationists slurring about the good old days. Not my idea of a good time, and it seemed as though they were going to be successful. But on August 18th, the morning of the vote, 24-year-old Representative Harry T. Byrne received a 7-page letter from his mother, Fed. She briefed him on the family and the weather, what you would expect from a letter from your mom. But she also wrote, "Hurrah and vote for suffrage and don't keep them in doubt." So despite the red rose he was wearing that day, Byrne voted aye for ratification.
Of course he did. Of course he did. They sick the pit bull on him. They sick the pit bull, the mother queen on him. And all it takes is a letter from your mother. I would have told my mom, yo, sit your ass down. Yo, sit your ass all the way down, man.
His relationship with his moms, he appreciates the way he was brought up. He has tons of great stories of, the way he was brought up, the way his mom's was, how she held it down and everything. But the same thing, he don't take no shit, tell you straight what it is, and how you take it is how you take it. Sometimes it comes off that he may have rubbed her wrong a little bit, so they get mad at each other for a hot second. But at the end of the day, they love each other, so they fix it and pull it together. And he still won't tell you what it is, though.
But that's just me.
Breaking a tie and allowing the amendment to pass. He later said, "I know that a mother's advice is always safest for her boy to follow, and my mother wanted me to vote for ratification." So there you have it.
And that's the problem right there. I tell y'all all the time, your mother gonna be your downfall because she is designed to limit your risk. And the only way out this motherfucker is to be risky as hell. But when you have a mother that's designed and gonna do everything to minimize your risk, instead of maximizing your success, you're gonna be in the back end of life. You're gonna be in the back burner of life a lot, guys.
Women's suffrage in the US was a long, windy, complicated, and sometimes ugly journey, which makes it difficult to turn the whole thing into a neat and packaged legacy. And a mother's gentle nagging played a big role in history. Who knew? But ultimately, if the story tells us anything, is that the road to full suffrage for all citizens was paved with pitfalls that took consistent years of activism to overcome. So what do you think? Let me know.
Yo, Mr. P, yo, you still there? That's it right there, man.
Hey,
that's the class for the day, bro.
You can't make this shit up.
You can't make this shit up, man.
What Ida B. Wells was doing is what what a lot of these black women doing now. You know, want to run behind the white women, and them the ones who send your dumb ass off. But you're doing a good job.
One more time. You got it, Mr. Bowman. Let's hear that. Let's hear that.
Good job. I get you, my brother. You're doing a good job.
Bitch, you doing a good job. Bitch, you doing a good job. Bitch, you doing a good job. Bitch, you doing a good job. Fuck that laundry. Fuck that dish. Take a break and shake that shit.
Yeah. Shake
that.
It is what
God
it is.
damn, man.
Hey,
God damn, man.
I guess you can learn a lot from a dummy for real.
You can learn a lot from a dummy. I tell him that all the time. Damn, Mr. P. So, shit, man, it ain't really much to say. It ain't really much to say.
Truth what it is, man.
That's a fact, man. I'm gonna let you get back on the couch. If you got anything you want to say. So I appreciate you, Mr. Palmer, man. I appreciate the shit out you, man. Word, time is money, and you spent that with me, so I appreciate you, Mr.
Hey, love the hat. Hey, love the hat.
No doubt, man. Me too. I love the shit too. I take it everywhere I go.
Oh yeah, hey man. Hey, how's the weather out there?
Yeah, we looking good today. We nice today. It ain't rain. It's nice. It's not even that hot and humid. It's the nice little breeze.
It's like, I guess about 75, 80, but it's supposed to rain, but it didn't yet. So I'm finishing outside to see how it is and shit.
That's what I'm gonna do. I think I'm about to go back outside too. I was at the store. I got bombarded and shit. Like they ain't see me in the wild and shit. So I think I'm gonna go my ass back over there for a hot minute.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna send you something later.
All right, no doubt. You already know.
Cool. All right, man.
Couch Gang salute. Goodbread salute. It's a wrap, guys.
Yes, sir. All right, man.
All right, bro.
All right, peace out.
Only two things could get you through this, man. That's patience and persistence. My life is tailor-made for me. Don't let anybody speed up my process. I don't care what's happening out there. That's the great thing about, having ultimate confidence in yourself is it doesn't matter what's happening. I don't care what's happening. I don't care what you're on or this person's on. This is what
I thought I was ready in '97.
Right.
And I didn't have a major record company marketing to promote my project until 2003.
Right.
So for that time period, I had to run on my own energy. I had to convince myself that I'm gonna make it. Regardless of how people felt at that time. And what it does is it makes you feel like, well, it made me